to go ahead and start over with the cardiovascular system. It's been such a long time since we've discussed it, I figured we'd just go ahead and start over and start fresh. For today's assignment, I'm just asking you to watch the 2 videos I posted from Edpuzzle, and your grade will come from there, and I will assign work with it tomorrow. So starting out with cardiovascular system, I'm pretty sure we've talked about most of this, but so review. There's 2 different types of circulation when we're talking about your your heart pumping the blood. The first is called your systemic circulation, and it's called systemic because it's going to deliver the blood to all the body cells, and then it carries away the waste. So it's going to deliver the oxygen and the nutrients that it needs and takes away the carbon dioxide that you produce during cellular respiration. Then the pulmonary circulation. This is going to take the carbon dioxide and takes it to the lungs, where it also picks up oxygenated blood, and then it travels back to the heart so it can pump out the rest of the blood, and it's just a continuous cycle. When you're looking at the heart, it's about 14 centimeters, about the size of your fist. It's located in that space called the mediastinum, and that's located between the 2nd and the 5th intercostal space. Now we call the distal end, so right here, the distal end, we call that the apex of the heart. When we talk about coronary arteries are the arteries that are going to supply the heart with blood supply. So that's why you see those, the different arteries, and that's why your heart has to have these to continue pumping. Alright, continuing with the structure of the heart, we'll talk about some of the connective tissues that enclose it. First, you have the fibrous pericardium. It has 2 layers, and the first one is the visceral pericardium. If you guys recall, I think it's from 1st or 2nd chapter. It's called visceral because it is directly connected to the organ, and the pericardium means heart. And then you also have parietal pericardium, and this is going to be the outer layer of this sac. Now inside the pericardial cavity, this is going to contain fluid, and most of this is just to help reduce any friction. Continuing with the structure, after you get past the fibrous pericardium, the 2 connective tissues, the inner layer of the the outer layer of the heart is called the epicardium, and that will come in direct connection to the visceral pericardium, and it's also there to reduce the friction. Now myocardium, this is the large muscle. It's the middle layer, and it's just mostly composed of cardiac muscle to help your heart pump. And then the last one is endocardium, which is inner. It's a thin inner lining that you will see in the chambers and the 4 chambers of the heart. Now today I'm going to revisit the box diagram that we did of the heart and talk about the flow of it. It is a double pump, so it's going to pump out of the left and right ventricles. The left ventricle will pump it to your systemic, so it's going to travel all over the body. And the right ventricle will be pumping blood to the lungs or the pulmonary system. So same thing, we've talked about this when we're looking at the structure of your heart. The top 2 chambers are called your atria. They're thinner because they don't actually pump out blood. They receive blood that are coming in from the veins. And we talked about it, that most of that blood that's coming back in is under relatively low pressure. The only way that your blood returns to the heart is because of muscle movement, which that's why they get concerned about people that have a sedentary lifestyle and not moving very often, or possibly in the hospital, because you're not using those muscles to get that blood back to your veins. The bottom 2 chambers are called ventricles. They are thicker because they are the ones that are actually doing the pumping. Your left ventricle is a little bit thicker than the right ventricle because your left ventricle has the job of pumping out to the entire body. So when it's leaving, they're going through arteries. And in the middle, you have what's called a septum, and it's going to separate the right and left sides. There's a picture of the actual heart. We'll be talking about that. We'll be talking about the blood flow through that in my next lecture, not today. Today we're just going to try and focus on the box diagram of the heart, just to understand the flow. In the heart, you also have valves. The valves are there specifically to make sure you only have a one-way flow of blood and they can't go back into the veins or into the heart chambers. So you have two AV valves, and they're called AV valves because they're between your atria and your ventricular, so they're atrioventricular valves. The left one is also called the bicuspid or the mitral valve, and the right is the right AV valve, or also called the tricuspid valve. You also have valves. You have one in the left ventricle and the aorta, and I'll be showing you again, like I said, on this box diagram here shortly. That's called your aortic semilunar valve, or your aortic valve, because it will not allow blood to go back into your left ventricle from your aorta. And then you have a pulmonary valve, and this will not allow blood to go back into your right ventricle, and it stays in the pulmonary artery. Like I said, the bicuspid is on the left side, the tricuspid is on the right side, and then you have both your semilunar valves. I just spoke about the septum. The septum, like I said, it is a muscular wall that divides those. Sometimes, if there is a defect in this, you hear people talking about there's a hole in the heart, and that's a lot of times it's not, it's in the septum. Okay, I'm going to stop there for today. We're going to get into the actual structure of the heart probably tomorrow or Thursday. I am going to go over the box diagram again. Make sure you're watching these videos. That's how you will be receiving your points, and that you watch them fully. So please let me know if you have any questions.